Hello, everyone, and thank you for watching Comma Speaks. And today, myself, I'm speaking with Patti Cotton. Patti is a personal executive coach, and she says, just like me, we are thrivers and survivors, survivors and thrivers. I love it.
Yes.
This thing called domestic violence. But I want to thank you, Patti, so much for being on my show. So welcome.
It is such a privilege, anytime we can reach out to the community and educate and maybe save a life and take somebody down a different path that's better, it's a privilege for me. Thank you for what you do.
Oh, you are very welcome. Now, I want you to let the audience know exactly who you are and what you do.
Okay. Uh, well, I am a personal executive coach. I have over 25 years of international leadership experience in many different realms. Diplomacy, so diplomatic relations, corporate relations, business development, philanthropy, in academia, in healthcare, a lot of different things. So it's been my privilege to serve in different positions and to lead teams to make a difference. And about 5 or 6 years ago, I decided to jump out and empower people in many of those places by taking my experience and coaching them to help them to success.
Can you explain exactly what a personal executive coach? I haven't heard those terms before, but I heard of
Yeah.
personal coach, life organizational coach, but not a personal executive coach.
Okay. So, an executive coach, you may have heard, is someone who coaches executives, and usually they deal with business, whether it's performance or whether it's the executive's agenda. If the executive is transitioning out, wants to do something different or step up to more potential. And I call myself a personal executive coach because I do coach executives, business owners, chief decision makers, but when I do, even if they just call me for business affairs, we wind up coaching on their life as well. It
Oh,
gets very personal and very real because you actually take yourself to work and back again. You can't leave part of yourself at home.
very true.
So I have many corporations who reach out to me to hire me, but I also have many executives who personally reach out to hire me without telling their corporations. And so I think the differentiation says something personal, and people usually ask me what that means, and I'm able to share.
Now, you are known as the breakthrough expert. Now, where did you get that title from?
I got that title first through, they used to call me in my younger years Girl Impossible. If you told me I couldn't do something, I would be doing that right away. I would show you that I could. Later on, as I rose up in the corporate world, I was known for achieving impossible results. And so they would hand me a problem project or an initiative and say, we want you to do this because we know you've done it elsewhere. And I would break through what had not been done before.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that's when I first became known as the breakthrough expert. Then I later took that expertise in my coaching to help people break through. So not just programs and services, but people.
How did you exactly get into coaching? I know a lot of people that I know on Facebook right now, that's one of their dreams, something that I want to do. Actually, I'm kind of doing it in a it's not a it's I'm kind of doing that on the
I
side a
think
little.
you're doing that. I think you're doing that through your show, if nothing else, and I'm sure you're doing it in other ways too.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
oh, absolutely. I first became interested in coaching. I kind of reached the pinnacle of where I was as the chief fundraiser for 5 hospitals. And I realized that I was not very happy being in a corporate environment where there were a lot of politics and so forth. So even though I loved developing programs and services and I loved reaching goals and raising millions of dollars to help children and things like that, there was still something in me that went hungry, if you will.
Mhm.
So I went back to school and I loved systems, I loved people, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I loved learning. And so I said, give me something that puts it all together. And there was a master's program, organizational management development. And I thought, that's cool. That brings together business, law, human resources, psychology, all these things, wraps it all up together. So I'll go see what that's about. Well, courses were almost all full. but there were a few left that had to do with a specialized track within that master's, which was coaching. So
Mhm.
I decided to start with that. And the first weekend that I went to school, I walked into that room the first day, and when they started, I just started crying. I thought, I have come home. This is what I was called to do.
Wow.
Because all of my life, I think, since maybe as young as my first year at school, I remember always looking for kids on the playground who were left out and elevating them to show them what their gifts were and including them. And I
Mhm.
can look back, and that's something I naturally just looked to do all of my life, was to say, you've got potential. And
Mhm.
then some of my own circumstances in life that I went through also propelled me to want to turn around and help others. So when I wound up in this classroom and I thought, this is what you get to do, you get to help people cross through barriers, to break through and to step into their God given potential. I'm so there. I
Yeah,
really am. So,
we share a lot in common. I've been able to help people in some of their businesses and kind of guide them on some things. It's just something when they tell me what they have, I'm just, oh, you can do this. How can I help you? How can I help you get out there? I get joy as well, just being able to do that because you need that push sometimes, and
mm-hmm.
somebody is there. And we were talking just before we got on how this is Domestic Violence Month, and I know there's a lot of people out there that don't even feel like they even have anything because of whatever they're going through now or something they've been through. Are they able to come to you and say, I know I have something, I don't know how to go about it. How can you, or is there a way you can help pull that out of them so that way they can move forward?
Yes, yes, there is actually. There are two things I want to say about that. One is the loss of hope that women and men who suffer from domestic violence suffer from, and that is a loss of hope. And we can come back to that. But secondly, what I find is whether you are a silenced and vulnerable voice at one end of the spectrum, you may be homeless, you may be in a DV shelter, you may be in that horrible, frightening situation still, or you are standing up in front of a board running the boardroom. There are still common human issues that we all face. So if I take a woman who has a silenced voice out of a DV shelter, and I take a woman who's earning $1 million a year and she's running a boardroom, you will find the same common challenges and issues. We all suffer from the same human issues. I think the difference is with DV, with domestic violence, is that when we've been through it so long and so beaten down, that we don't have hope. I remember that when I was president of Alternatives to Domestic Violence for Riverside County just a few years ago, I was also a fundraiser at that time.
Oh, wow.
And and so one day I walked in and I said to the CEO, look, Eliza, let me just raise millions of dollars for you. Show me what you need. What do you need here? What do you need for the shelter? Just set me loose. Come on. And she turned to me and she pointed out to the living room where the ladies were. And she said, do you see the women and the children out in that room? And I said, yes. And she said, here's what I want you to do.
Mhm.
I want you to go out there at a certain moment when you're ready and to stand there and to say, you can do this because I did. And you point to yourself. She said, because the one thing they do not have is hope. And that is why 97 odd, some odd percent of women return to their abusers, because they don't think anything is going to be any different. Nobody's giving them that. And so, if someone, back to your question, if someone in that situation came to me, I could say, there is hope. I can tell you firsthand. And
Mhm.
yes, I can lead you to resources. God has created you to have this fabulous potential, and it's just in there. You can't feel it right now. You may feel you're ground up to dust and there's nothing left. You may feel like your soul is so trampled that you will never be able to revive it. But I promise you, there is water at the well. I promise you.
Wow, that's deep. I'm we people need hope because I didn't have it when I got out of my situation. I didn't even know where to turn. I didn't know what to do because for so long I kept it to myself. I wouldn't
Yeah.
tell people because I was embarrassed. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that most people that I've talked to that's dealt with domestic violence is the embarrassment of what they've been through. And then also what happens is it sometimes doesn't work in their favor because they go into a job, and let me know if you've seen this, whether they go into a relationship or into a job where once they leave, there's no balance. It seems like all this anger comes out and they're treating somebody just as bad, or being very mean to someone because of what they've been through, because that's all they know, and all of a sudden they get a little cloud, or a little I don't know what the word is I'm looking for right now, but they get into a higher position and they don't know how to work with their employees, and they don't have balance. Have you had anybody that was like that? And if you have, what are some things that maybe you tell them to do to calm it down? Because I know someone that's like that right now. They're
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
mean.
So what you're talking about, I would describe as bullying in the workplace.
Mm,
And what it really is, it is abusive because bullying is abusive. So whether we call it abusive or whether we call it bullying, it is wrong, it is hurtful, it is damaging, and it should not occur. And what happens when we are in that situation, especially if we grow up in it, is that that is the only way we know how to live. And so even if up here in our head we say, well, I'm never going to be like that, we are patterned to do likewise. And
mhm.
it takes some special tools and support to overcome that. And although all of us, not all of us who have gone through domestic violence come out with that, some can. Others will come out and be very submissive and let life roll over them because they've had the air taken out of them, if you will. So whether it is that you feel trampled or you've turned around and now you're going to trample because of it, you need basically you need an attitude adjustment is what you need. I think you need some help,
Mhm.
and there is help for that. There is support, and it is a repatterning and a reshaping of how to deal with conflict, how to deal with feelings. I coached a woman earlier this year who, when I went in, she was raising millions of dollars a year for her company alone by herself. She was raising over 12 million a year, but she couldn't tell me how she felt. She couldn't delegate to anybody. Everybody get away from me because you're not meeting my standards. And so she, even though she was very dynamic, she was being taken as off-putting and
Mhm.
not inclusive of others. And as I worked with her, I had to help her get in touch with her emotions. And once she did that, she started to be able to see perspectives about how other people might be feeling and so forth. So there is a rehabilitation period, if you will. When you come out of domestic violence or any difficult situation like that, or addiction, let's say it's addiction or DV, you can't just say, okay, I'm over it now because I'm out of it.
Right.
Inside, you are still patterned there. And so there is some personal work to do. The exciting thing is there are many resources for that, and it can be so exciting when you do that personal work because you are never a victim again. You may be victimized, you may be run over by a car, but you are never back in that victim mindset again that triggers so much.
Yes. Now, do people see you as a therapist as well? What would be the difference
I guess
between what
they
you're
do,
doing?
although I am not a therapist, but coaching is positive psychology.
Mhm.
And so in that regard, there are some overlaps between therapy and coaching. We coaches have to be very careful because we're not therapists, but we do have elements of that psychology that we use with people. I think the difference between coaching and therapy, well, one big difference is that therapists, you will see a therapist if you're not functioning well. If you are a high functioning person but you have a barrier you can't overcome, you may see a coach.
Mhm.
And so I think that there are some times when people come to me where I will say, you know what, let me give you a name of a good therapist. I'd love to see you after. I'd love to work with you in conjunction, but you also need therapy because you're not able to function in life right now. And you need more than what I can offer. You need specialized help. So I specialize in the here you are now and here's where you want to go. A therapist will go deeper and say, what happened to you? Let's go through that so that we can repattern and reshape. Granted, coaching reshapes and repatterns also,
Mhm.
but it is using positive psychology on a go forward basis. So, but there are elements of yes, we use evidence. If you have a coach who meets the standards of the International Coach Federation, who's gone for the training that uses the proven methodologies, then that is what you will get. So you have to be careful when you choose your coach.
Yes, I actually I have a life organizational coach, and I
Good.
believe that some of my sessions turned into therapy sessions.
It can easily do so. Yes,
he,
yes.
he
You know,
finally
we
said,
coaches have coaches too, I want to say.
yes, yes. Actually, I interviewed a coach a few months ago, actually back in January, who then turned me on to his coach, and now he's coaching me. But he says he has a coach
Beautiful.
too, and I know the guy that sent the guy to me. I didn't know that he was being coached, but I found out that it is important that the coaches, they need to be coached as well. You know, it's not just, they don't just stop and say, okay, I'm going to coach and I don't need any help or any coach.
No, you never want to do that. Human potential is unlimited, and we can also get into ruts. And just like therapists and counselors who have their own therapists and counselors, we coaches have coaches as well, just to keep us fresh, new, on point, and to make sure that we're stepping into the biggest and best potential that we have in front of us to serve others.
Yes, and for me, it's I see the difference between the therapy and the actual sessions. The therapy, I call it my emotional and mental detox, because it's
Uh-huh.
so much out of me. Even when I was talking to my coach, that it didn't get out just a little bit, but now it seemed like it's drawing out more, and now I can focus more, and I see more of my potential, and I'm able to think clearly. So there, I see the difference, but it was bad. He said, I think you should probably talk to a therapist. And I said,
Oh. Well, here's what you want to do. What you want to see, there are many different kinds of coaches, as you've pointed out. Business coaches, life organizational. I'd never heard that one before combined. You know, executive coach, leadership coach, and so forth. You want to see what their area of expertise is, and then you want to see their background as well. Because a business coach may need different elements in schooling than an executive coach who deals with behavioral issues and mindset, you know, that kind of thing. So depending on what you're looking for, you want to make sure that just the word coach doesn't mean they can do it. We can't do everything. We each have our specialties, and I think you know that.
yes.
So you are a coach as well, so you would know too. So I don't pretend to coach everybody. I have my areas. I would not, I would not coach you in, oh, I don't know, decluttering your closet and yeah, I just because
Right.
don't look at mine. But I will coach you if you're not a good listener and you're putting people off and there's something that you don't understand about yourself, social intelligence or emotional intelligence wise, to help you to grow into your potential.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Well, why don't you share with us some other things that you are doing, or what you can do to help other people maybe we haven't talked about yet?
Okay, let's see other things that I do. I have a group coaching program for women that I'm just starting on stepping into exceptional confidence, and that's a 6-month program that we're going to begin in a couple of weeks. I
Wow.
really believe that the chief primary reason that we don't get ahead is because we don't know how to ask and we don't have confidence. And
Mhm.
even if there are other systemic barriers or other things that get in our way, we won't know that until we stand up and say,
Right.
hey, this is what I want. And so I will be doing that. And as I say, we're launching in a couple of weeks. Um, some of my heart work involves giving back to uh, domestic violence initiatives and at risk youth. Those are some things that I do. And then I speak at various locations while I'm writing on my book. And let's see, what else can I tell you? I don't know. Ask me questions about any of that. I'm kind of all over the place, having a lot of fun and enjoying helping. I love helping others.
Yes, you're down the path that I am trying to get down. Speaking is one of
You
the
can
things
do it.
I want. Thank you. Thank you. Now you're speaking. what's the joy? I'm just going to ask this especially for me because I love speaking. What are some things that you're able to, or some of the joys that you get when you're able to speak and able to change lives? How does that feel?
Oh my goodness, that feels wonderful. And I will tell you this, comma, there were many years when I spoke in front of, thousands of people for my work. It didn't, and that was fun and I loved it and it was exciting and engaging. But then when I started speaking for myself, um, it turned. It was no longer, it's not that I was performing, but there was a heart thing and a connection that I loved with the audience. And then the day came when for the first time I was going to speak in front of a couple of hundred people. And the night before, I had looked at my talk and I suddenly realized this is not what I'm supposed to talk about tomorrow morning. I was moved that I was not going to do this, that I was going to tell my story.
Mhm.
Now you have to understand that was the first time I was going to tell my story. And
Wow.
this was to a business audience. I thought, what? I'm supposed to be talking about this? I thought, no. I took my speech that I had prepared the next morning to the conference, and I was the opening speaker. And so I keynoted, and when I got up there, I knew without a doubt that I was supposed to put my notes down and just fly and tell my story, which I did.
Mhm.
And I made it pertinent to the business audience because domestic violence and issues of empowerment are global, no
Mhm.
matter whether you're in a business seat or anything else. And at the end of my talk, I had women coming up from everywhere, crying, begging to talk to me. And I thought to myself, comma, when we hide part of our story, when we allow people to shame us and say, why didn't you just leave? Or why did you put up with that? Or
Mhm.
anything else because they are uneducated, we are cheating the world
Mhm.
of giving others permission to stand up and say, I need help.
Mhm.
And so I think the big lesson for me at that point was you don't hide part of your story. You
Mhm.
stand up, and if you feel ashamed about part of it, you need to deal with that. You need to say, okay, I have to sit down with this and reckon with this. Because when we hide part of our story, we're trying to fit in. And when we fit in, we don't belong because fitting in means we cut corners so we can push ourselves in versus where do I belong? I am a child of God. This is what happened to me. It's like being run over by a truck, and you figured out how to get up afterwards and go. There is no shame in that. So the big thing I would say is own your story. And when
Wow.
you own your story, that is when the power comes through and you speak to and you reach exactly who you're supposed to reach when that happens.
Wow.
And to those who say, why didn't you just leave? I often say, well, let's see. Would you say that to one of the Vietnam POWs who was in a cage after so many years they just let the door open and stood by it to see if they'd leave? Would you say that? No. You are talking to someone who was put in that same situation in that same mindset. And there's this, oh, never thought of it like that.
Wow.
So, yeah, owning your story allows you to truly minister to others in a way that nobody else can.
Mhm.
And I often say, we are broken jars of clay, and God shines brightest through the broken places. He is the seam of gold that comes through.
Wow. That's powerful. Oh gosh. Um, because that's what I've been dealing with, kind of not telling the whole story, out of feeling very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable
Hmm.
because I don't know what people are going to say. I say just enough,
There are
but
so many of us out there. Because why, comma? Because we don't know what to say. Because you know what they're saying to us. They're saying, what's wrong with you?
yes,
What's
yes.
wrong with you? There must be something wrong with you. And to that I say, walk in my shoes first.
Hmm.
You come walk in my shoes and talk to me. That
Yes,
is an uneducated, ignorant statement that
yes.
needs to be eradicated. But in order to do it, you and I have to eradicate it within ourselves first by understanding why we didn't leave.
Hmm. Yes, very true.
Because we were actually put into a prisoner of war mindset where we didn't think we could go. The minute the doors open, you might go, but somebody could slap you right down.
Oh yes.
You're in that place. So, yeah, we need to eradicate that within ourselves because when we do that, we give other women the power and the permission to stand up and say there's nothing wrong with me either. It
Yes.
happened to me, and now I'm able to stand up and say I belong.
Wow.
I'm a worthy person. I am a daughter of God. I
Mhm.
have something to contribute. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. It's about time to wrap up. And before I let you go, if you can just leave something with the audience, maybe something you would like to share with them, and then also your contact information, how they can find out more about you, if you're on social media, your website information.
Absolutely. Well, I'll give you my website information first, and then I will leave you with a few words. And first, my contact information is my website, so you can find me on patticotton.com. That's PattiCotton.com. So patticotton.com, and there's a way to contact me there by phone or by email.
Okay.
And please reach out if you have a question. What I'd like to say to you is this: no matter where you are, no matter what your circumstance, no matter what you have come from, whether you've come through addiction, sexual assault, prostitution, domestic violence, anything, anything where you feel like you're less than, I want to tell you that you are just as much, that you have gone through something that is terrible, and I'm telling you that I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but you are coming through that. You have come through that. And the beauty and the power of you, because of that, is like a broken bone. You break a bone, it gets mended, and the scar tissue is stronger than the original bone. If you recognize that, that makes your story unique, and that means you can minister to people like nobody else who has been through what you've been through with your energy, with your story, with your contributions. You have so much more to share than those who have not been there. Own your story and know that you are beautiful as a child of God, and that there is no shame. And if you're feeling that, reach out to me. I'll give you some resources. You need to get over it because the world needs you. They need you now. Don't cheat the world by staying in your corner.
Thank you so much for that. That is beautiful. And with that said, again, thank you so much for being a part of my show with your knowledge and your wisdom. This is
Kama,
great.
thank you. Thank you for hosting, for your ministry, for your mission. It's a
Thank,
privilege to be with you.
thank you. I really appreciate that. And for those that are watching, don't be afraid to speak up and speak out. I was afraid for a very long time, but God told me that I had to go through that. I had to give my testimony. And although it's hard and I'm still giving little by little, I know this is what God wants me to do because I want to help protect someone else from being in that predicament, or be even just being able to get out of it, because you can get out. God always gives us a way of escape. So make sure to speak up, speak out. If you have any questions for me, you can visit my website, which is commaspeaks.com, and fill out the contact us form. And with that said, I'm doing a lot of talking, but now I'm doing a lot of thinking. So I'm going to go ahead and end this. And I thank you all for watching. Continue to watch Comma Speaks. Follow me on all my social medias at Comma Speaks, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My YouTube is For Sale by Comma. You can check out all of my shows and subscribe to my YouTube page. Make sure you spread the word. Domestic violence does kill. It does. So please spread the word, save a life. Thank you so much for watching.
God